Mid-July and it's time to start doing what we call summer scouting. Bottleneck right here, kind of a natural bottleneck. Put some boots on the ground. Remember the topo lines we looked at. We're not scouting for where deer will be necessarily during the summer. We want to go ahead and get ready for that opening day of bow season. When I talk about summer scouting, that doesn't mean looking for fresh sign. Typically, most bucks will shift to a different portion of their home range between now and when that velvet sheds. This is typically due to needing a different resource. For example, bucks are craving protein right now, probably eating in large food plots. They're certainly not getting that big protein source in the middle of a closed canopy forest. When that velvet sheds, especially during the pre-rut or rut, they might cruise through here, work a scrape on the edge, but pinch points is the name of the game. Even properties I'm familiar with, if I've spent a lot of time walking around, I'm seeing a different view than that aerial or satellite view. This satellite image is of the proving grounds, so I know the property pretty well, but again, even me, studying the satellite view with the topo lines allows me to learn even more. Once I get up on the satellite view, I'm using Onyx to get that, and I've got the topo lines on. This bottleneck right here, this saddle, you can see a big topo line sweeping in here. Pretty flat right here, especially where we got this food plot. A ridge top right here, a mountain top. And you can see, well gosh, the easiest way to go around this or get to this side or this side is right here. I'm going to scout this small opening. It's not a food plot. In fact, we call it the blackberry patch. There's a big group of blackberries right in the center on the south side. The magic to this area, well, it's not the blackberries are attracting bucks. There's no fruit left by the time the pre-rut or rut comes. It's that it's right in the middle of a pinch point. This opening was somewhere else, it'd just be another opening in timber. Now, deer like to use scrapes on the edge of openings, but right in this pinch point, this saddle makes it a very active scrape most years here at the Proving Grounds. I want to go check it and do some scouting in the area and see maybe if there's a better way to hunt it than I have during past years. I'm going to formulate a strategy so I can do the work now, maybe moving a stand or hanging another stand, so I'll be ready to go when October comes. A second place I'm going to scout today is close to a large bedding area we call a 50-acre glade. That bedding area is here, and you can tell it looks different on the satellite image, and that's because this area is covered by closed canopy forest. And what you're seeing in this fall picture, you see the colors of the trees, is native grasses starting to turn brown. You're not seeing all the forbs underneath them, and the occasional big oak tree out there. That's because years ago we cut out all the cedars, we've used prescribed fire, and turned that into a savanna rich with native grasses and forbs, providing great cover and food. I'm going to be scouting in this lower portion of a big block of hardwoods. And right here, there's a drainage, pretty steep, that goes down to the creek, comes up, and then the topo lines get wider here. You can tell it flattens out. Well, right at the head of that, Daniel's had some great hunts.
Go down, it's 9 o'clock. Well, that's the way it goes on these trails. They're quick hunts. They come flying through. They know where they're going, and they're just coming through at a good clip. But you can see a lot of deer.
The magic to this, what we call hidden bottleneck, it's not like a field crossing in Midwest or narrow stand of timber, is that deer could go through here, but it's much easier for them to cross right at the top of that drainage. The drainage making that subtle bottleneck, white oaks in the area, food plots here, bedding and food here, makes that an obvious travel corridor. let's get out in the field and see what we find.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Reconics, Eagle Seed, Winchester, Avian X Decoys, Lacrosse Footwear, Morel Targets, Hoyman, Hooks Custom Calls, Summit Tree Stands, RTP Outdoors, Yamaha, Fourth Arrow, Onyx Hunt, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Blood Sport Arrows, Code Blue, Decode, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
I'm at the area we call Blackberry Patch. There's a big, gnarly blackberry patch behind me. Got a bunch of saplings growing up in it. And we're right on the edge of that little old opening, probably an old logging deck. And right here in these red oaks, I've got a couple summits hung. And I want to show you why I have them hung here and then do a little scouting. So come in here, and it's right by this old logging road. Then we go down through here, and you almost see a little trail, but anyway, a little pass through here, and there's kind of a natural bottleneck right between this tall timber, this big old blackberry patch and saplings. I'm looking around just seeing if anything's been browsed on, but again, I'm not worried about seeing fresh deer sign. I want to check it out, make sure my stand's good. If I need to trim a shooting lane or some limbs that have grown out right here, probably need to trim before bow season. Get in here. You can still see the remnants of a scrape, and they've used this as what I call a traditional scrape, and it's 3 feet around. They've used it so many years in a row, it's dished out a little bit. Of course, I had my Code Blue scent wick there, and I'll start it earlier than normal before the pre-rut. I'll start it about the starting of deer season, and I'll put some more Code Blue. I use synthetic buck scent. Just about the time the velvet's coming off and bucks start sorting out the hierarchy. And you're kind of see who's the king of the mountain. Remember the topo lines we looked at? The high points back there kind of stays right on the edges, ridges. It's really flat right up here. We're just a few feet in elevation below the road. They're not walking down the road. We use that almost daily doing work here at the proving grounds. Walking 20 yards right off the road. They're just out of view, kind of out of sight, out of mind type thing. Coming through here, kind of see a deer trail run through here. It's tough to pick up on the leaves, but we get up here, and this is subtle sign. You learn to read this subtle sign. Here's an oak right here that's been browsed on. Deer will browse on oak saplings. I talked about this deer trail. Well, they've come through here enough when spring green up that they kept this little vegetative growth dead right here. You can kind of see if you look close, it's tried to grow, but there was enough traffic in here. They went right through that area and kept it from growing. Some more browse right here, some more browse in here. You're starting to see a few stumps up here. That's because last year we came in here, hung a summit stand down there, and made a shooting lane. So this is too thick if we look right over in here to think about trying to get an arrow 20, maybe 30 yards at the most through there. But here we've got cover and got a couple yard wide window, which is perfect. Deer are very comfortable. I mean, cover, a couple yards cover. Very comfortable, easing right through there. Got a shooting lane. Good chance we may put a stand back there this fall. This isn't that many yards off the road, but I'm not lazy. None of Growing Deer team is, but we can approach, hunt, and exit without alerting deer. Very easy. And we can approach from multiple wind directions. So if we've got a northwest, west, southwest wind, we can come from the east on this internal road. On those rare east wind days, we can come from the west. Now, one more thing I want to talk about. We talk a lot about thermals. I'm scouting this area. There's a really deep ravine over here. We're kind of circling back around. And right here starts a ravine. So you're probably wondering, why two stands so close? You had some summits there and some right here. And these stands, you can't even see the scrape. Well, in the fall when the leaves are off a little bit, we can certainly see deer moving through there. We may not see them clearly, probably couldn't shoot it, but we could tell if we're watching a deer moving through there, even working the scrape. But oftentimes in the morning, nice cold, late October, early November morning, it's gonna be cold. The thermals are gonna override all but the strongest winds, and cold air in the morning, cold air is heavy, and it's gonna sink down the path of least resistance, just like water. It's gonna go right down this ravine. So mature buck, he can cruise in this cover. Remember, just a few yards off the road, he can cruise right here, 10 yards below that scrape. Scent check it to see if there's anything there that interests him. Keep on going to the next scrape. So that's why our stand was right below the head of this ravine. Right off the bat, I'll share this has been a biological desert for the past few years. The ground is just covered with leaf litter, and you see a fair amount of stuff growing here and a lot of browse as we walked in. That's because we used prescribed fire to remove that leaf litter this spring before the canopy had formed, and let some sunlight get down just for a while, and got a bunch of growth, which caused deer to have some more food in this area. We've got a stand right here. You got a couple summits hung up here. This Daniel has had some great observations here. I've hunted here, had does come by, seen a bunch of deer here, and the reason's real simple. I mean, we're in the middle of a pretty large area of mature hardwoods. Tough to pattern deer in that type of habitat, but right over here starts a pretty deep ravine. Now, I could walk through there, deer can walk through there, but deer are lazy like I am. Older deer got a pot belly like I do, and they want the path of least resistance. So we come right up here, and you can see the ravine was, I don't know, 5 foot deep right down there. We get up here, especially right up here, and it's maybe a foot deep. Big white oak over there, some big white oaks right back here. I'm 20 yards from the stand, and this is right where the deer cross. So it's just a great, what we call hidden or blind bottleneck in the timber. And that ravine is the secret. Now there's some food plots that way, a few hundred yards, bedding area over here, a couple hundred yards maybe, and then a food plot past that. A lot going on in the area. You might ask, why aren't your stands right there? Because here we have a pinch point with an easy 20-yard shot. To effectively hunt this stand requires a cooler morning, only mornings. We don't hunt here in the afternoons, and a northwest wind. Cooler or cold, colder the better, because thermals are gonna come down the mountain. That's uphill, gets pretty steep up there, about 100 yards. Remember, cold air is heavy, it sinks, and it's gonna rush right down this ravine. So north and south wind, we can walk into the stand, hunt, and exit without alerting most deer. And I say most deer because, again, this ditch is certainly deer can go through it. And I've seen some young bucks, a few while I've hunted here, cross that ditch and keep on going. But I'm gonna say 90% of the deer any of us have seen out of stand cross right here. It's really tough to have a stand that's 100% just bomb-proof. Deer can never get behind you, especially when hunting big blocks of timber. But by doing some scouting, you can put the odds in your favor. Another reason this is a bottleneck, there's an old cattle fence. Now I can cross it, deer could certainly cross it. It's probably down in a place or two, but it comes right through here. This is long before Trace and I purchased the property. This wire is old, but it's low right in here and down right up there. Deer cross right here really easy. So we've got a pinch point coming down the mountain and a pinch point coming up the mountain within about 40 yards. Makes a really nice pinch point for deer to go through. This is a perfect reason to get out, put some boots on the ground, spend some time during the summer where you're going to be hunting that fall, because obviously this won't show up on a map. Now a super keen observer might be able to pick up the bigger trees right in this line, and that's because the fence has been here that long. When we look at this, look how deep, almost in the center, this fence is on this tree, almost in the center, slightly off center. So this fence was nailed to this tree when it was a sapling about that big off center. A sapling, a young tree. And this tree is old, so that fence has been there a long time. I haven't disturbed it. Deer have obviously learned to cross right here, and that just means they're conditioned for years. They've learned from the doe to cross right here. These two structures, if you will, the ravine and this fence, make a great pinch point. Now you may hunt somewhere, you just can't find a pinch point either by studying the Onyx map or putting a lot of miles on your boots. That happens. Sometimes the slopes are just like this, there's no ravine in them, or flat land, or the timber's all homogeneous, whatever it is. But you can create pinch points. I learned this years ago out in Kansas. I was working on a property and there was a big old long round bale of hay. So for me to get to where I was going, I had to go around that end of the round bale of hay. Now, I could have crawled over it or done something, but it's just so much easier to go around that round bale of hay. And I look down, there's a massive deer trail right there. I mean, massive. At both ends, there was a bunch of bales of hay, some farmers stacked up there at both ends. Well, you can create the same thing pretty easy. You can move some round bales of hay where you hunt, maybe get some old ones that farmers not using, or some type of like black screening or something. Doesn't have to be all that tall, just like the round bale of hay. If deer can't see the other side, they don't like jumping over it. I'm sure they would if a pack of dogs or coyotes or something was chasing them, but their normal day-to-day activity, they're not jumping where they can't see the other side. So, boy, if you had some black cloth or something like that going through here and had it 5 feet tall where deer could not see over it easily, I'm sure some deer would cross it. Maybe you put it up through there 100 yards or something like that, but wherever it stops, probably gonna be a bunch of deer circling around the end. I hope some of this information motivates you to get outside in creation and enjoy it more while you're there. But most importantly, I hope you're motivated to spend time every day being quiet and listening to what the Creator says to you. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.